4 weeks ago I had opportunity to do something with, those of you who know me, this is a Naphtali crazy, whirlwind day. So on I think it was the Wednesday night I davened Mariv in London. Thursday morning I davened Shacharis in Krakow. Thursday afternoon Mincha at Auschwitz. Thursday evening Mariv in Warsaw. And Friday morning Yerushalayim Nets at the Kotel. So for me that was akin to davening behind our very own Solly Irving on Yom Yerushalayim. That's the story of Klal Yisrael. That's the story of Am Yisrael. For 2,000 years, Vayarit Makom Merachok. For 2,000 years, we were people who saw the place Merachok from so far away. I was thinking just now when I was davening behind, Rachok, so far away, so far away. Mi haya cholem, who would have dreamt? And I'm sure you heard before the famous words of the Ponovitch Rav when he arrived after having lost his family, lost his wife, lost his children. He arrived in Eretz Yisrael and he said he wanted to build a yeshiva. I think it was still during the war. So he had some balabatim and they said, fine, we'll buy an apartment, we'll buy a little house and the Rebbe can start a little yeshiva. And he said, we've heard the story, when we come back to Tzir Hayinu Kechomim, it'll all be, the nightmare will be as a dream and the dream will be as a... But he said it differently. He said we have to be as dreamers. We have to dream as we're awake. And the famous photo of my generation of the three tzarchanim standing looking up at the Kotel with those ga'aguim, kisufim, chishukim, that yearning, the yearning and the prayers and the tears of 2,000 years, and here we were back. My first days in Yerushalayim, when I was 18 and I ran away probably more quickly than Rabbi Ginsburg from Hasmonean. I took my A-levels early. It was either that or they would kick me out, so I decided to get out of there as quickly as possible. Took my exams in January, and I actually, my first Zman in Shabbat Kotel was this Zman, summer Zman. When was it? 1983, I think it was. So the fulfillment of one of my dreams was Yom Yerushalayim. I was not too British, and I elbowed my way to the front of the phalanx, this Roman, the column that used to dance down to the Kotel for years and years, led by Rabbi. So at sunrise, I spoke to one of my nephews last night who said he was dancing with Merkaz Arav to Yerushalayim. Through the old city to the Kotel for Netzach Hama, for Vasikin, to daven with sunrise. And I elbowed my way to the front, and I was going to say to Reverend Turner just now, for years and years, probably the last 45 years, till quite recently, the song that everybody sang on Yom Yerushalayim was Sahali Varoni Yoshevet Zion, Higadol B'Kirvech Kadosh Yisrael. So I spoke in the bass and Hasmonean yesterday, nobody knew the song anymore even, which was really anyway, so I was at the front and I remember dancing down, with Talis and Tfilin, and dancing down through this crowd to daven Shachris at the Kotel. And Rav Adari turned to me and he said as we came through and this throng, thousands and thousands of young people sort of moved apart so that we could get to the Kotel, and he turned to me and he said, Naphtali, ma Titus haya omer? What would Titus have said? What would Titus have said, and what Yemach Shamam, what would all the people who tried to get rid of us all these generations, what would they have said when they saw us coming back to Tzir? And when we talk about, I must admit that when I see that picture of the three tzarchanim looking at the Kotel now, there was once a time when I was in Yerushalayim that I actually commissioned somebody to tweak the poster and have those soldiers crying. Because in a way that symbolizes 45 years on, what could have been? I mean, it's painful to think. Mashiach was here. He was here. He was there. I wouldn't have a job today if it weren't for the 6 Day War. There was no tshuva movement. There's never been a tshuva. There's never been outreach in Klal Yisrael. When Jews left, they were gone. They were finished. They never came back. Fiddler on the roof, on the railway line. They never came back. It's really only as a result of Yerushalayim, and the Ponovitch Rav said then that this thing that happened around the 6 Day War, Yeshua's Hashem Kerefayim, when everything was turned around from literally mass graves being prepared in Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim, 20 years after the Holocaust. Nasser closed the Straits of Tiran, Nasser, Damascus, everybody. The Jews were finished. They were going to wipe the Jews into the sea. And in 6 days, the whole thing was turned around. The Golan, Sinai, Yerushalayim, absolutely unbelievable. Incredible. But we still got what to do. And I must say, I shared with Alfred yesterday morning, I should have had more kavon in my davening, but at least I was thinking about the davening. I was thinking about Yerushalayim, but those of you who saw us talking and told us to be quiet, which you're quite right. But I had two chidushim about Yerushalayim. They're not enormous chidushim, but I wanted to share with you. The first thing is, Yerushalayim is the epicenter of the Jewish world. It's everything faces Yerushalayim. Everything, every simcha, every sad occasion, every davening, aliyah l'regel, everything is Yerushalayim. It says in the Peri Asara, Nisyonis, Nasan, Abasin, V'Amikdash, every day there were nisim, gluyim in the Beis HaMikdash. So the Beis HaMikdash is a place where if you're not tapped in there, in Yerushalayim, where are you going to tap in? But the problem is, as the Novi says, that when even the most special things can become habitual. Mitzvahs anoshim lemoda. The Novi warns us that our Judaism and the most precious things in our lives can become just rote. So it occurred to me yesterday, I don't know if this is true, but we say v'sechazena eineinu b'shuvcha l'tzion barachamim. Baruch atah shamachzeh sh'nos l'tzion. We talk about the return to Yerushalayim, and it's juxtaposed with modim alach. And I was thinking that maybe the reason for that is the most precious thing to Klal Yisrael, which is Tzion. Even that you can take for granted. We've all been to the Kotel, we've all been to Yerushalayim, we've all been to Israel. I must admit, I take people to Poland now because it's easier to wake them up in Poland than it is in Yerushalayim, which is a terrible, terrible thing. But I was thinking that maybe that juxtaposition is like David HaMelech says, the famous word. One thing David HaMelech asked, Shifti b'beis Hashem k'nimei chayai, lachzer Hashem u'levakir b'eichalo. So it's again a famous word. Put it in over here. David HaMelech is living in Yerushalayim. David HaMelech, wakes up and sees Yerushalayim every day, and that's why I ask Hashem. It should be levakir b'eichalo. It should be as if I'm visiting every day, so that it doesn't become by roads to us. I want to share with you just two more messages to go from here with two messages of Yerushalayim. In learning we refer to different generations. There's Dvar Mabul, Dvar Floga, Dvar Midbar, Dvar Kibbush of Eretz Yisrael. The generations have defining moments. There's something that defines a generation. So I feel that even though it's 45 years, this generation and the generations that are sitting here, we are the first generation to have Yerushalayim as a reality. So what are the messages of Yerushalayim? And I just want to share two very, very quickly. The Rambam says that, the Rambam in Hilchos Beis HaBechira says, Masurah b'yad hakol, it's a Masurah in Klal Yisrael, that the place where Avraham built the Mizbeach on Har HaMoriah for the Akedah is the same place that Noach came after the flood. He also built a Mizbeach there. It's the same place where Cain and Hevel built a Mizbeach. It's the same place where Adam Rishon built a Mizbeach. And he ends up on Misham Nivra. From that place, Adam Rishon was created. And he ends up, the halacha is saying, Adam Mimkom Kapara Nivra. Man was created in the place where he will bring Kapara. That is the essence of Yerushalayim. The essence of Yerushalayim is to come back to what you really are. To come back authentic. That's why we face there 3 times a day. We say, Va'anis v'lasi, I am my prayer. There's no point kidding anybody else. When I daven, I'm standing in front of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Umisham Nivra. I face Yerushalayim in order to stop playing poker all the time and to be real. What is my life? What was I created for? What am I about? So the first message of Yerushalayim is a place that also says that place, Chazal say that the Aron, the Mokam Aron Eino Min Amida, the Mokim in the Kodesh Kedoshim where the Aron HaKodesh was, doesn't fit in. The mathematics don't work out. The Aron was bigger than the room. Why was it bigger than the room? Because this is Misham Nivra. This is the place of creation. What does that mean? We don't know exactly what it means, but there was some symptom of pure ruchnius of the Rebbeinu Shalom that at a certain point converted into some physicality. That place is the crossing point of a world that is totally spiritual and a world that is physical. That is what a Jew is a guf and a neshama. That is what Torah is. That's what the Beis HaMikdash was. It was the most beautiful place in the world, but it was a place of ruchnius as well. So one of the messages of Yerushalayim is for a person to be genuine and authentic with themselves. What is my life about? What am I living for? And Yerushalayim should remind us of that on one level. And another machshava that I had in davening yesterday that I shared with Alfred, he gave me my stempel. The other question was on this point, and then I'll show you the last point, is my daughter asked me this week, what does it mean that Yerushalayim is kilat yofi? Klilas yofi, mesos kol haaretz. What does it mean that Yerushalayim is described as the most beautiful place in the world? If you've been up the Jungfrau, the view's nicer. The Chevron is pretty good, but the Alps, the grass, it's beautiful. They're beautiful places in the world, places that seemingly are more beautiful, and there's happiness that seems to be happier than the happiness of Yerushalayim. So what is the simcha and the sosan and the yofi of Yerushalayim? And the same daughter, I happened to see this week a photograph of her when she was about 5 or 6. And it's one of these gorgeous photos of a 5 or 6 year old laughing. And if you think of a 5 or 6 year old laughing, it's irresistible. It's gorgeous. Any 5 or 6 year old playing, laughing. What is the beauty of that? And that is beauty. What is the beauty of that? What is the joy when everybody quells when they see? I think the answer is Umisham Nivra. The answer is that is what a child is supposed to be doing. And there is nothing more beautiful, more special, that fills us with warmth and real joy than seeing something doing what it's supposed to be doing. Children are supposed to be playing. Children are supposed to laugh and smile. And that's what Yerushalayim is. And that's why Yerushalayim is Klilas Yofi and Mesos Kol Haaretz, because the function of Yerushalayim is for everybody as an individual and Klal Yisrael as a whole to get in touch with what it was created for. One more thought on Yerushalayim, the following. How many names are there in Yerushalayim? Shivim Shemot Yerushalayim. There are 70 names, the Medrash says. Klilas Yofi, Mesos Kol Haaretz, there's Tzivah, there are 70 names of Yerushalayim. What's the number 70? 70 members of the Sanhedrin, 70 languages. Said that the Kabbalah says Shivim Shorshe Neshama, Shivim Nefesh Yod Mitzrayim. 70 went down to Yerushalayim. There are 70 root neshamas of Klal Yisrael. Shivim Polim Torah. There are 70 different facets of the Torah. So what does it mean that there are Shivim Shemos Yerushalayim? So to answer the question, there's the Gemara in Brachos, Daf Lamed, says the following. The Gemara in Brachos describes how a person is supposed to daven. How are you supposed to daven? Well, what's the answer? Where are you supposed to face when you daven? Yerushalayim. The Gemara spends, 15 or 18 lines describing if you're standing here, you face here. If you're standing here, you face here. Omei Batzofon, Machzir Polam Ladorim, etc., etc. And then it concludes, Nimtzu Kol Yisrael Mechavlim Es Libon L'Mokem Echad. We find that all of Klal Yisrael are directing their hearts to one place. Why couldn't the Gemara just say, face that place? Why does it go through all this? So I think that the answer is, like the Gemara says at the end of Tanis, Osid HaKadosh Baruch Hu Lassos Mochel Tzadikim. In the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make a circle for the Tzadikim. V'hu Yoshev B'neihem. And it says that Hashem will sit amongst the Tzadikim, and everybody will matzpia, every Tzadik will be matzpia be'etzba'o. He'll point with his finger, and he said, and every Tzadik will say, Hinei Elokeinu zeh kivinu lo v'yoshenu. This is Hashem, this is what we were working for, this is what we were davening for, this is what we were Nefesh for. Elokeinu zeh. So I don't remember in whose name, I think it might have been the Chafetz Chaim said, why is it a circle? The reason why it's a circle is Bahai Alma in this world, every hashkafa thinks he's right. Every Rebbe thinks he's right, every yeshiva, and it permeates, goes all the way to everybody thinks they're right. The chiddush of a circle, and why we always dance in a circle, is it's equidistant from the center, and people can literally be diametrically opposite in their perspective. So if you bring that back to the Gemara, I think with the Gemara in Brachos, the reason why it goes through all those lines in the Gemara is it's not enough to say face Yerushalayim. You can literally be facing opposite directions and be facing Yerushalayim. And I think the pasuk says Yerushalayim habniyah ki ir shechubar layachtav. The pasuk in Tehillim, which we read this morning, which actually that capital Tehillim was on Yom Yerushalayim. We also sang that with Rabbi. It was beautiful. Samachti ba'alumi. There's another story with that, but we haven't got time. It says Yerushalayim habniyah ki ir shechubar layachtav. Yerushalayim rebuilt. Yerushalayim, when it's built, is a city shechubar layachtav, that is mechubar together. So number one, it's mechubar shamayim v'aretz, the guf and the neshama, and that's a place where every individual connects. But the Yerushalmi says, Yerushalayim habniyah ki ir shechubar layachtav, ir she'alsa kol Yisrael chaverim. One of the functions of Yerushalayim is a city that should connect all the Jewish people together. Chubar layachtav. That's why the people of Yerushalayim had to be the most hospitable. They had to open their homes. That's why all of Kal Yisrael, Schiff were forced to come up to Yerushalayim, Aliyah Regel, to fill your part of Kal Yisrael. And there's no doubt, all of us have heard again and again and again and again, Sinas Chinam. That's why Yerushalayim was destroyed, because that's the essence of Yerushalayim. The essence of Yerushalayim is Shechubar layachtav. It's a place where we need to join together, and in a generation probably not different from any other generation in the machlokas, because Klal Yisrael unfortunately is always ripped apart by machlokas. But the sadness of our generation is it really doesn't need to be that way. The sadness of our generation, if we could only recapture the euphoria of today 45 years ago, which is just yesterday. It's nothing. If we could recapture the way every single Jew, from Hasidim, Misnagdim, everybody was united, everybody thought Mashiach was here, and instead we went back to and those Samchanim are crying. Hayinu kachamim, it was a dream. We need to recapture the dream, and recapturing the dream is to look ourselves in the mirror, which is what Yerushalayim is, to be real with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror. What does it mean to be a Jew as an individual? And secondly, the continuum is how do you make it ir she'alsa kol Yisrael chaverim? How can we build a world, and a Jewish world, where even though we might disagree with other people and we might stand really in a different place, there's a circle that joins us all together. Nitzu kol Yisrael mechavne eslibam lemokem echad. And it's Hashem, we should be zecher to the binyan shalim b'meir yameinu.